at this occasion, I will share the screen. If do you see it now, the screen?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so
the design influences the city and vice versa, all these processes that are generated by design in the city. But it's nice connection, city design, city planned.
Anyway,
Yes.
I kind of got slightly irritated by the word design in connection with the city, but only slightly, and I will explain that, because I think that cities are there. I mean, there are like two processes really happening in the city, and they are slightly different: the design and the planning. And I think that what concerns the planning actually may be in connection with the concept of the city. It's kind of more appropriate in a way, but I kind of think that both of these processes somehow are involved. So I will just I will try to explain this on 4 examples, and which we were designing for Prague, and also to show you some. At the beginning, I will start with this short theoretical sort of explanation. So basically, this image shows you my city of residence, Prague, and what you can see here is this sort of beautiful medieval castle and the old historical core underneath the castle, and then behind the castle, maybe you are. I don't know how much you can actually read it, but behind the castle there is a late 19th, early 20th century extension, and then on the horizon you can see the housing estates, and these are like the primary 3 stages of the development of the city, and namely the 2 of them. Which influenced the city a lot, the early sort of 20th century, and then the late or second half of the 20th century. I will a little bit go deeper in it because it has to do with these 2 concepts of designing and planning a city. And if I would sort of I would try to start the explanation on showing you the different scales of the city and actually the design and planning process, because of course we have a city as a whole, and then we have different districts, we have a neighborhood, and then we have a block, and then we have a building lot, which is the very cell of the city. You can say that that the lot is the cell of the city. Somehow the blocks are the tissue, and then neighborhoods are somehow the organs of the city. And then there is the whole, I mean, if we want to use this analogy. But you can also see these lots, block, and or these units as not only as units as from which the city is assembled, but you can also see them as scale levels of the environment, where the elements of the environment are actually going through or permeating and the themes are permeating all these levels, and different things are actually happening on these levels. So we can say that the themes or the elements from which the city is actually assembled are not only these units, but actually also some layers, and probably the most important layer of the city would be the public spaces. Then there is the building sort of mass, civil amenities, all the infrastructural and mobility facilities, landscape, transportation. That would be kind of the primary. I mean, you can, of course, come up with many other layers, so many things and themes which are happening in the city, but those would be the primary if we are talking about planning. And then just like to explain what how things or how different sort of processes are happening at the different layers. I will show you, for instance, what could happen on the level of the district if we are talking, for instance, of the public spaces. So there is on the level of district, there would be some general idea being conceived, and then there would be some the establishment of the sort of general street network in the sense of patterns, not really of individual spaces, but more as patterns. And there will maybe there would be a spatial delimitation of the key public spaces, but so it's like it's really somewhat like general concept. And then if we go down to the level of locality, that's actually where the spatial delimitation of the basic street space is happening. And so that's actually was a process which we already might kind of call a design. And there is maybe we are setting like the secondary permeability of the blocks. So basically at this level, there is a sort of general description and delimitation of the public spaces is happening. And then one level further down at the level of block, there already we can speak about certain parametrization of the public space and delimitation maybe of the inner block public spaces, if some of them are public. And we can already talk how the secondary permeability of the blocks is actually happening. And then actually only on the very lowest level, on the level of the plot, and I'm not talking about the building plot, but about the plots which belong to the public spaces or where the public spaces are, we are actually starting to talk about designing work. And I'm not saying that there is a kind of clear line. There is a certain sort of penetration of this design approach and this planning approach. And the main sort of difference would be, at least for me, would be that planning is somehow a process which is continuous, very long term. The one who's actually, there are many actors usually, and therefore it's really hard to control. And usually, who's leading the process is actually in many ways only leading. You don't have it absolutely under control, the planning process, or it's very hard to have it. Whereas design is something as I would define it for these purposes, something which has a more clear beginning and end. So it has a very clear definition in time and in space. We would be designing typically a building, and typically we would be planning a city. So I think that it's very sort of basic and very clear. And I will just show two examples of two different periods of the city development of Prague, where this sort of mixture of these processes had a sort of different balance, and also there was like clearly a different result. So one period is the first half of the 20th century, as I was talking about it earlier, which I would call like a coordinated development, where most of the sort of what we call a compact city was developed. So that's, I mean, Prague has a really unusually big historical core, that's what we inherited from the periods before the 19th century. But still, this period is something which creates like the bulk of the city, and we call it compact city. And basically, the system worked in a way that the public authorities were the main development driver. They basically designed they bought out the land, they designed the public spaces, they developed the infrastructure, and then they basically usually they sold they divided the land into what would remain as public spaces, and then what would be the buildable lots, and they divided, or buildable blocks, and they divided the buildable blocks, created different parcels, and they sold off parcels. And that's basically also how the city expanded, but also how it made money, and also how it formed itself. So there was a very high control of the public authorities, how the city will be developing. There was a very high control of how the environment will look like, because what the city did before selling off the parcels, it also set up rules according to which the individual lots could be used. So it's basically designing the public spaces, designing the amenities, and then planning for the sort of private sector to come in and have its sort of whole its own initiative. And this was of course possible because there was a very stable size of the basic development units. So the environment was very kind of, one can say, predictable. It wasn't so sort of difficult for the public authorities to know what will be the desired size of the lot, and they could sort of presume and design the sort of public spaces and the public amenities or the technical infrastructure accordingly. So this was the situation in the first half, and that basically it's a system which they just sort of developed slightly the system which we inherited from 13th century. So this is a kind of something which we probably know. The second system, and it's based, this former system was based on a cooperation between the public sector and the private sector. And in the second half, what came was a slightly different, or maybe dramatically, what you said, different system, and that was a sort of centralized planning, top-down system, where we had where basically the public authorities were not only planning the public spaces, but actually they were planning the whole thing. And they were not only planning, but also building. So the authorities were basically the sole developer and the sole actor. There was only, I mean, it's slightly more complex than this. It's like a slight simplification, but basically it worked like this. And there was basically one developer, one planner, one contractor, and one operator also. or very centralized system of operation of or management of the environment. So this is a system where the designing process prevailed, and also there was very little rules for the construction of the buildings, because there was no real need for the rules, because there was one central control of the whole planning. So that created a very different environment altogether. And that here I can kind of, you can see what are the sort of advantages, but also shortcomings of this system. Because here, of course, this happened for a certain reason. The reason was that it was in a way more efficient to build this way. And it was also much easier to administer in this way, and there was a much higher control of the builder. That means the public authorities about what was being built. Of course, the shortcomings are also clear. There's a very great level of uniformity. There was a very little space for initiative, like the bottom-up initiative for the users or different actors and their involvement. Therefore, there is a much less attachment to the environment, and also these were kind of the obvious and short-term deficiencies of such environment, but also in the long term, the fact that there aren't any rules for how to build the buildings at the beginning also mean that there aren't clear rules for how to sort of change the environment. So it has also it has its advantages, the system, I'm not denying that, but it also has severe shortcomings. And that's also why I'm kind of a little bit nervous about the word or the connection of the concept of designing with the city. Because if designing, for me at least, means like really like a top-down high level of control of what is being produced, whereas the planning is kind of, for me, like a more broader system where the actors are invited to somehow participate on the project. Okay, so now I will show you four different projects which we work on in our office later in Prague, and two of them will be primarily from this environment, from the environment of the housing estates, and two of them will be from the environment I showed before. That means from the more from the period of the compact city. So these would be the projects of our design company, which is called Unit Arkitekti, or Unit Arkitekts, because we love the unit, we love the cell of the system, and we think it's really important that the fabric of the city shows gives certain autonomy to the individual cell, to the individual unit. That being the house or the lot, it can be the block, it can be the locality, it can be the district. So each of these units needs to have its own level of autonomy, and also its system, how it's interconnected. Because then it actually creates an organism which can grow and which can thrive on its own. So that's, I think, very important to keep in mind when you are planning or designing the built environment. So these here I'm just showing the different projects which we were doing for Prague. You can see, I don't know if you see my pointer. Do you see the pointer?
Yes, clearly.
Yes. Yeah, so this would be clearly the approximately the area where the sort of compact city of Prague is, and these would be the sort of the outer sort of ring of the housing estates approximately in the city. And I will show first the two designs from this area, which concern or tackle the problem of the housing estates and new development around them or in that environment. And then I will show these two projects in an area called Palmovka and here in an area called Florence. So you can see also the dates. So first project is in a neighborhood which is called Libuš. It's a tradition. It used to be a traditional village. There still is the traditional village, and here the main theme was how to coordinate various stakeholders in the environment. You see them here. You can see that this is the sort of historical core of the village. It was on a road leading out of the city center, Prague. This is on the southern outskirts of Prague. Prague would be somewhere up, or the city center would be somewhere up in the drawing. And here, basically, we are talking about this area. It means this housing estate, and then the big lot here open. And there is like a small neighborhood of garden cities development, and this being the historical village, so to speak. And today, what's happening is that here you see it in a 3D image. Here there is a new metro line, the subway line being planned, and there should be a subway stop. So this place, which now looks like a sort of almost middle of nowhere, will suddenly become a centrality for the whole neighborhood or part of this part of the city. It would be like a locality, let's say, center. So and the thing was how to kind of bind these different developments, how to make them like a vibrant city center. And you can what was the sort of the intention was to kind of build really dense in the center where the future metro line or metro stop exits would be. These would be these black triangles, and built above them, and there would be a new tram connection which would go through this through the area. There would be like a new tram loop here. And the land where at present there's only parking will be also built over, and where there is this sort of open sort of prairie looking like lot will be converted into a public park, and also the park will be lined with new buildings which would sort of create the back of the blocks of the original sort of village structure. Here you can see how the original village lots and the arrangement of the basically farmhouses, village farmhouses. So this is more or less the design. There was also detailed building regulation for each of the block. There was a different purpose given to each of the public spaces, this being sort of the main kind of stone square of the new area, and these sort of being like more or less pedestrian zones, and with the public park, which we consider also public amenities. And there was what we were also planning was a detailed sort of distribution of the building capacities, where how much of what can be built where, and also coordination. There was a coordination of the property rights, because of course the property belongs to different actors, and it was you need to have a plan how you will deal with the property settlement. And then there was also provision for the public amenities, kindergartens, where the main commerce will be placed, where the cultural amenities and community centers will be placed, where a new post office, and also, of course, where also the commercial amenities will happen, which is mostly in the on the sort of ground floor, lining the main public spaces. So then what happened was that there was a like a book created, that those are the rules basically for different sort of blocks, build-up blocks that were created, like sort of separate rules, how the blocks can be used, what different uses will be there, how high and how much you can build. Because this is very important, because if you do not create these rules, and there is a then the neighbors kind of do not know what to expect from each other, and sort of cooperation can turn into chaos and like high competition, and then suddenly the overall character of the neighborhood is lost, and also the environment becomes totally unpredictable. So we don't want that. We want sort of the character to be somehow intensive, but controlled in a way, or to a degree. Yeah. So and here you can also see the red lines which show where the sort of commercial amenities will be. So it's very the policy is quite clear. The main public spaces align with the amenities, with the commercial amenities, and then as we spread out from the center, they become more scarce, and it's only the main sort of corners which are accentuated not only as volumes but also with activity. So that's basically the first project. The second project is somewhat similar. It's also very close, but this was this is where the sort of local district center. Libuš is actually a locality center, but here there is a new also a new subway station on the same line, but this is really the future center for like the whole city district. So again, it's this is the line, this is the stop of where the Libuš development is happening, and this is the stop where the other preceding stop, metro stop, it's called nové dvory, which means like new courts or new farms, or new farm will be placed. And so what will, and this is the area which it more or less sort of covers. So, and again, there are like very different neighborhoods falling into the space or neighboring this space. You can see that again, there is this, there is the garden city development, there is here and here, there is a housing estate, there is a big sort of public, it's not park really now, it's like a jungle, city jungle at this moment. And then there is a sort of a high-rise development. You can see that from the shades, and you can also see it from the in the 3D image. There's like a high-rise development here, and there's also a water plant, big city water plant here, so like a big technical infrastructure building. So basically, again, very different types of neighborhoods coming together, which are a result of a very sort of complex planning, where there was first supposed to be like a garden city development plan in the 20s and 30s, and then it was like totally converted during the time of the socialist planning, and these new housing estates appeared and in the place. And so what needed to be first coordinated is the other public systems, so public spaces and the green infrastructure, so sort of the landscape infrastructure. Again, the public transport, this being the new metro line. Here are the main sort of entrances to the metro line, and the red line here is the tram, which again has here like a big loop, and then there is what was also designed was the permeability of the pedestrians and the bicycle permeability of cyclists, and of course the public amenities, including the sort of devoting different public spaces to different sort of functions, or giving it a different character. In a bigger scale, the blue-green infrastructure. So you can see that what is happening here is that the city jungle was converted, or is supposed to be converted, into a proper city park. Neighboring to that is are the schools and sport facilities, and then this will be the sort of real central location of this central neighborhood. So it's basically not only like a central square, but it's a whole central neighborhood. And the sort of the most sort of central of them, it's this kind of big city block, which consists of many smaller built blocks. This is how it looks as a master plan. So there is an intention to divide the buildable blocks into smaller lots, which will be later used by different developers. What is also important here is that the city of Prague owns a big share of this central block. So the planning here is, in a way, much easier. Nevertheless, the system is already being built, the metro line. So certain things are kind of are being planned in kind of reverse action, and what we are trying to do is also to integrate the exits of the subway station into the buildings and into the public transport, which happens on the surface and their station. So here, this I also should point out is we consider it as a regulatory plan. It isn't actually a design, or we don't consider it a design, but this is kind of a assignment for a design which should come later on. So you can see that, in fact, the planning is in fact in a very detailed form and almost resembles a design, because simply there is the tram station, the bus stops, the roads need to be planned in advance. So the assignment needs to be really detailed in this respect. So one could almost think that this is a design, but no, it's actually, we consider this a plan, and it's like the part of the regulatory plan. What's also perhaps interesting here is that because this is supposed to be the true city center, you can see that the height and the density in which it is built is really high. And I should stress that this is not a private sort of sector initiative. This is a city initiative, and the city wants to have the area very dense. And in order to actually fit the things in and secure that there will be enough light and also views or as much as views as possible for the different users, we developed like an elaborate system of spatial regulation, which there is a certain sort of basic level of height level, and then there is a sort of lower, one level lower, where one can build, actually cover the built part of the lot completely, and then from this level on, you already need to create, or those who will be building on the lots already need to create certain holes or penetrations into the volume, so that there would be light would go in and people could look out from the inner space of the block and would not feel enclosed. And then as you from the basic sort of height level, there is another height level where there is already the volumes are already much more scarce, and then there is a possibility for local dominance on particular spaces. So basically you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different handling of the volume at different sort of heights, and which gives a certain flexibility to the builders on the level of the projects, of the individual projects on the lots, but also secures that everyone has certain comfort or level of comfort. So again, this is about how things are being planned. You give the rules, you talk to the actors, you set the scene for them that later on to play out their own sort of needs and development projects. This is how the area is supposed to look, this being the sort of central space. It's like this is the sort of stone square. And this is the sort of high building, which again, it's tall, but it isn't very, isn't that voluminous, so it doesn't sort of take that much space of the sky, and it allows for the sun to still fall on the square and be a pleasant place. Okay, now so basically we are creating a space which resembles the city, the compact city, but with slightly different tools and slightly different methods. And now we are going back into the compact city itself, and we will talk a little bit about the area here, and on the bend of the city there's a river Vltava flowing through the city of Prague. This would be the old towns or center, and on the other side of the river is what like still a medieval part, which is called a lesser side, and then with the castle here sort of guarding the whole area. And then the city made a big sort of bend and a bow, and it returned into the direction towards north. And this area was always like lowlands, flooded, and then it became the city's sort of river port, like a harbor, and it was full of industrial facilities. But now it's being recognized as a place with a great potential because it is very close to the city center, and it's close to the landscape which runs here along the river. The river is not only, or it used to be like a big sort of traffic highway, not that much anymore, and now it's considered like more like a sort of a green spine of the city. So from here you can already bike out into the countryside, and it's very centrally located, but still offers great possibilities in this respect. So this is the area, but on the other hand, this is also the picture showing the potentials and how many people are actually changing or using the traffic, the intensity of the traffic use. And you can see that the highest intensity, of course, is in the center here, but this area has a high intensity of traffic as well. And that is even when it's not fully developed. So it shows that the place really has a potential. This is how it looks. This being the former harbor, and this area is now being sort of developed. At present, there would be a big city park along the river. Here already the green line out of the city starts, and these would be the developments of the compact city. But they are, as you can see, they are kind of scattered in kind of slightly separated islands, and because there is this heavy infrastructure going through a railroad, and there are some high intercity highways, and the areas which we were supposed to coordinate the future development is outlined by the white line. And you can see like different sort of developments, new developments going on in this area around here. But there wasn't enough coordination. So the city said, okay, we need to put all these developments somehow, organize them, coordinate between them, and we need to reorganize the system of the public spaces and of the traffic. And this was basically our task and our commission. Here again, you see it in a 3D image. This being the area of our primary interest. You can see the old factories here, and here the areas of the compact city development and sort of industrial facilities and the harbor. Again, this was how it was supposed to be planned in the past. There was quite a sort of concise urban plan made for the area in the 30s, which was, as is kind of a standard in Czech development, 20th century development, was then sort of cast off, and it was substituted by some like a totally different concept, and that happened in several stages. So now basically the area ended up as this patchwork of different sort of systems which do not really work together, and the area looks kind of slightly abandoned. So although there is a subway station there, and in fact it has a great traffic potential, it looks really neglected. A lot of homeless people in the area, and it's in a rather poor state. So first what was done was an analysis. We were trying to see what are the areas where new development is happening and what actually needs to be coordinated. What are the main sort of traffic and city transport elements which are going through the area, and what limits they pose on our development. And then, of course, there was also the more fragmented ownership structure here, which we needed to deal with. And this is already the proposal with again, it's a system of public spaces and build up blocks. And there are two areas which will be, or which are being designed in a more detailed way. There is the northern part, and then there is this pentagon in the southwestern part of the whole area, and we will concentrate more on this area. This is this actually being the more detailed plan. Again, you can see the system. There is a new park being created in the center of the locality. There is a former cemetery which is now covered totally and over with a layer of earth, and which will be exposed again and will be used as a park. And then there are the blocks. Here is the area where the exit from the subway finds itself, and the main tram lines. Here are some, again, the functional division of the areas, which was designed here already in a very in a more detailed way than elsewhere. Here already, because this is the area where the city actually wants to start its development very soon. So the lots are actually being already divided, and it's being already determined which lot the city will later use for its own development, what kind of development the city wants to happen in these areas. So there will be like social housing, there will be co-ops with the share of the city. There should be like Baugruppe, that means groups of citizens to which the city will sell off under certain conditions. And there will be also a commercial development in the area. So it has already quite a detailed system. And of course, there are also administrative buildings. So and there is a shopping center. So it has a quite a detailed structure of how what will happen where. And this basically is how it will look, this being our Pentagon. These are the remnants of the factories which will be integrated, so to keep some sort of vestige of what was there, like some history of the site, and this is how the development will look. So it's lower, much lower than the one which we've seen at Nové Dvory, but still it picks up from the level of the compact city, which you can see in the background. And then we also worked, maybe it could be interesting for you, that we tried it out with our students, how it will work. There was something like 60 projects, student projects, which were done for the area, and the students were trying different sort of buildings, design different buildings for the assignment, which is given from the plan. And they were also trying to design like school facilities and kindergartens and the commercial facilities. So this is how it is supposed to perhaps look, as being, for instance, the chimney of a former factory, which is standing here as the sign of the past of the neighborhood. And this would be how the main park of the area is supposed to look. This area actually is also a former railroad track, and you can see that the tracks are still sort of are supposed to be, or are used as a design feature of the design. Anyway, and the last project, which I will go hopefully through very quickly because we don't have that much time, or we are running out of time, is a design of a very complicated central node of the city, which is probably one of the most complicated areas in the city. It's basically where the city walls used to run. It's somewhere along this line, and it's an area where two different sort of development system, or several actually but two main development system meets. It's that of what we call a new town, but the new town was actually founded in the 14th century, so it's pretty old new town, and then there is this early 19th century suburb of Prague, which is called Karlín, and these two development systems sort of clash in this area, and into this slot between the two development systems or two neighborhoods, all the different traffic systems kind of tried to fit in the past. So there was the first railroad tracks which were placed in Prague are here. It's this line. This is the first Prague railroad station. Then there was another railroad track added in the mid 19th century, another one after that on a completely different level. Then there is a like a city automobile, sort of a highway, inner city highway running through, and then there is this being the subway. There is a tram line running on this street, and to add to all the mess, there is a bus. The central bus station of the city of Prague is the area, the purple area here, and then there is still another developer doing his own development in this area. So basically, you have a clash of two developers, and to add to all the complications of the site, there are like several levels of the terrain, and the basic difference is something like 18 meters. So this would be the sort of the lowest terrace. Then there is a 6 meters above that is one terrace here. Then there is another area which is here, another 6 meters from that, and then there is still another area 6 meters above that, which is already here. And this being like two big hills, which are controlling the whole site. So it's like a big, complicated lot. Basically, we can go further. And this is how it looks in the photo map. Bus station, the city through artery, which is crossing the rails. This is one level of the rails here, and the second level of the rails here, going into this big hill, which is called Vítkov, and it's the most, it's the sort of green of the whole area. And there's a small park also here, but unfortunately, this park is being sort of passed over by the estacade of this highway. So a really complicated area. You will see it again in a 3D view. Bus station, the main sort of highway, the first train station here, Prague's main station, railroad station here, the higher level of the rails, the lower level of the rails here. And then to add to all this, there is also the new rails are being planned here into the hill from this level, under this level, and into a tunnel. So fairly complicated area. Basically the two big developers and the owners, the bus company and the other developer, were building on the rear sides of the area. And then as they were getting closer and closer to the center, they suddenly realized that they cannot, they are unable to coordinate themselves, because all the complications and all the connections which had a citywide repercussions, simply they could not coordinate. And they asked basically the city to somehow be their arbiter, and the city said, okay, we will do it, but we want to work with an architect who will win in a competition. We want to launch a big city planning competition, and we want you to work and to commission this architect who will result from the competition. As you will take him as your architect, who will be doing the planning for you, and then someone else whom you choose might do the designing of the individual buildings. So, and we participated in the competition. We won the competition, and basically this is our competition entry, and principle of the competition entry is basically the following. We said, okay, we need to include the green areas, somehow connect them, this park and this park on the hill, and create some sort of connection of the green axis. We need to have a somehow integration of these two big, or 1, 2, and 3 big neighborhoods, which are now separated. We want to have a understandable urban tissue, and we have to respect the infrastructural constraints which are set, but we will approach it in a way that we will create like a separate small neighborhood, like a mini neighborhood, which will consist of small blocks and a system of lots of small public spaces where people could, which would be like basically it's like a open air shopping mall, one can say, with administration and living above it. So it's and it will integrate the bus stop, and it will integrate all the other traffic which is happening on the site. So this was the sort of the basic idea. This is how it's like. I won't go into this, but I will show you the result. You can see that these are the small blocks which we created, which are still have a sort of a scale and still are divided into different buildings. Some of them are bigger, obviously, because they are covering the bus station. Some of them are covering or running over the rails, even, so that so that there is enough of the tissue, urban tissue, to actually be a small neighborhood. Some are running over existing rails, some are running over the planned rails, and again, by that we are integrating these infrastructural elements, and some public spaces are going under the existing rails, under these rails and these rails, and so that basically you have the urban tissue which would go through these big infrastructural lines, and the pedestrian would cross over the area without kind of noticing that you are maybe going under or over railroad tracks, because they would be over, or that you are shopping actually in above bus station, because these would be simply integrated. So this was the sort of the main principle and the main area. Let's design the city for the pedestrian, and let's integrate these things. Let's have again a very dense but very friendly kind of neighborhood. This gives you an idea how it should look on the level of the pedestrian. It shows the different levels of the public spaces which need to be sort of integrated. This being sort of the basic level, then this is the level of the rails, the one level of the rails, and this coming up into the areas which would cross the rails. And this is how it kind of looks, the whole thing from the top. So you can see it's sort of as though the infrastructure almost wouldn't be there. You notice it, but it doesn't bother you, and it doesn't, most of all, it doesn't create an obstacle. It doesn't create a barrier. So we are respecting it. It's there, but it's not being a barrier. That is the main sort of idea. And again, the bus station, this would be, for instance, the bus station. Again, you can see it looks like an administrative building with facilities downstairs, but in fact, in the basement there is a bus station. So, but on the level of the pedestrian, you kind of don't even notice it. So, and then I won't already bother you with this, but then there was after the competition, we did a documentation for the area, and with a very, very detailed plan, because here we are talking already about, like, maybe not centimeters, but decimeters, definitely, about how things are coordinated, what stops where, who can build where, how much, because otherwise, without this detailed planning, the subsequent stages of the design just wouldn't work. So this is basically it, and I'm just showing. So for instance, the parking needs to be planned. These marks show that the different blocks have a compound. So because the underground is so small that it wouldn't contain, or it wouldn't be efficient to contain the separately, for instance, parking. So we needed to kind of create bigger underground for certain parts of the block. So basically we are planning on many levels above each other. And this is more of the same, and this is how this gives you an idea how the guarantee of the quality of the environment through these rules, and which secure that the design of individual buildings can happen, and the different builders can have their initiative, but the initiative is within the frames which are given by the quite strict constraints, but they are not sort of arbitrary, but they stem from a really complicated situation of the site. This is the same, and this is how it again how the area should look. This is kind of a promenade facing the present train station, or the tracks of the train station, with people kind of watching the trains coming in and coming out, and this being in the background, this being the hill, which I was showing before, and this you can see what is the level, how the terrain is actually going up, and this already being the area +6. So it's already, we are already above certain other areas in this. So it's like a complicated mess. So the basic message is that the city, yes, it is designed, but mostly it's designed by the different stakeholders, which usually represent the private sector, but the city has to be planned. And who's planning the city? City is being planned by the city. Basically, the public sector has to take the initiative in planning, or else. I mean, again, I don't want to make it like an absolute statement. There are cases where the private sector can also plan parts of the city, but there need to be really very good conditions for that, and the planning culture needs to be of a really high level to permit this. Otherwise, at least the experience for my country is that then it is impossible to achieve certain level of coordination, which is needed for what we need now. That means compact, but high quality environment. Okay, this is it. I am overdue, sorry for that, but this is.
Okay, thank you, Professor. It was a very insightful presentation.